All right, we are here for the Waupaca County Citizens Public Participation Plan Committee. It is 2 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Let's see. Open meeting statement. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes so that the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call. Myself, Aaron Jensen here. We've got Bob Van Asten, Vice Chair.
I am present also.
Bob. Elaine Poole.
Here.
Hello, Elaine. Thank you.
Hello.
Cussman. Here. David Asman.
Being here.
Mark Forsyth. Thank you all. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Also. Okay, I'm sorry, that's Mark, right? Okay. Motion by Mark, second by Dennis, correct? Custom. Any discussion? Favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. My duties are done. Pass it over to Dave.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is identify the potential funds that we have for this close project. So this is just the one pager that I put together for the county board to understand it. And it's pretty simple. We needed to give all of our revolving loan fund money from the county back to the state, and that included the receivable of $456,000 and some dollars and cents there. In exchange, they would hold that amount of money for us for 2 years to do Cdbg eligible projects. We didn't have the $456,000 in cash, so we were able to partner with the city of Clintonville and the city of Marion, and they were unable to participate in the program that we're talking about due to just some technical aspects of the program. I won't get into the details of that, but they were just able to keep the revolving loan fund money. So they agreed to let us use $300,000 from Clintonville and $196,000 from the city of Marion, and in return, we would provide those exact numbers to them out of that 956. So they're going to do Cdbg projects in their communities. As I mentioned on the way here to David, the city of Clintonville is going to tear down an old building in the downtown area, and the city of Marion and create public space. The city of Marion is going to do some street rehab and new sewer projects. And what we're going to try to do with our money is a little bit different, and I'll get into that in a second. So there's $460,505.51 remaining from that 956 number, and Waupaca County is going to apply for that money to the state and do this project that we're going to be discussing today. The next item is the eligible Cdbg activities. So typically, and I won't go into all of this, but typically the eligible activities for Cdbg projects are the 5 that are listed at the bottom of the page. So we're able to do public facilities projects, housing rehabilitation projects, economic development, public facilities for economic development, and planning projects. Now this program, this special Cdbg closed program, added 2 more things to that list, which were on the next page, and that is the broadband access, and all Cdbg projects have to help low to moderate income residents. So broadband, we could do some broadband projects that benefited LMI residents, and mitigation of natural hazard risks was the other one that was added. Public services, I'm sorry, was also added for this. So the one that we want to do at the county is do something that we believe to be critical, which is the broadband high-speed internet access for residents, with a focus on LMI residents. Okay, I think we will go to number 7, presentation of identified community development needs. I'm going to ask Ryan Brown, who is the Planning and Zoning Director for Waupaca County, just to touch base a little bit on some of the needs that we've identified over the years, which is what led us to this broadband project. We met with the towns and regions when we were updating the comprehensive planning project, and we found out some things. So I'll let Ryan talk a little bit about that.
That's right. Thank you, Dave. So yeah, like you said, my name is Ryan Brown, Planning and Zoning Director. And so years ago, we started a comp plan amendment process working with all of our towns. And we held cluster meetings, the same cluster meetings that we had when the first comprehensive plans were first adopted. And so the point of those cluster meetings was to identify issues that had regional significance. Individual towns, they have their own issues, but when we're dealing with regions, we want to look at things that extend beyond the individual borders of towns. And so one of the common threads that we saw in every one of those cluster meetings was the need for better broadband availability. And so it was a consistent one. We had 5 clusters, and all 5 clusters came up the same way in terms of the need for increased broadband. The other issues that were brought up was high-paying jobs, manufacturing jobs, tourism, farmers markets, and was it bicycle pedestrian? Yep, was the other one. And so what that turned into, once we realized that, okay, this is an issue that we need to take a look at county-wide, we then held a series of stakeholder meetings in a lower level room downstairs. We had all our stakeholders there from around the county talking about how we were planning on expanding broadband within the county. And part of that process was sending out a survey to a random sampling throughout the county to identify areas where broadband is needed, or either just at all, there is no broadband, or where there currently is broadband, but they're being underserved, meaning they don't have very strong broadband. Because again, the federal definition of broadband is 25 megabit download, 3 megabit upload, and that's a very hard to come by sometimes in the middle of the country. And so the point of this process is to have actual broadband available in our rural areas.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. At this point, before I get into presentation for the activities that we've identified that we want to do with the Cdbg funds, we're going to ask if there are any other community development needs by the public that may be on this Zoom call that they want to talk about and let us know about. Or any of the committee members also, of course, can bring up anything. But we're talking basically about other community development needs. We've identified some from some of this work that we did 5 years ago. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up so that we know about it for the future? Okay. Well, we're going to move on to what is number 9 on the agenda, the presentation of activities proposed for this application. And so the first slide really is actually, if you go one up. This is really one of the slides that we had from 2015, really to show people what was going on in the county at that time, as Ryan alluded to, you know, only 1/3 of our people at that point in time had access to what was the appropriate speed the FCC says for people uploading information. And then we had, again, 4,000 of our 52,000 residents saying they don't have access to any wired internet. 75% saying they had access to fixed wireless, but this also, fixed wireless, this also includes cellular connections. So, and then fiber optic, of course, is very rare in the rural areas. It's very expensive to put in and expensive to for people to connect up to. So in 2016, then after we had this presentation to all our towns about broadband, we've got, I don't know how many towns actually signed up, but they actually passed a resolution that they supported improving broadband access in Waupaca County.
It's about 15 or 16. It was the vast majority of our towns.
Okay. So the only other place to get, next slide please, information really is the PSC. So the Public Service Commission has been working on broadband for a number of years now. They've had money to use to help fund grant projects throughout the state of Wisconsin. It initially started with just the major telecoms paying into a fund. And then the last several years, the state of Wisconsin has dedicated GO funding really to try to move this along. And it's been growing every year because people recognize how important this is. So this first slide is really to show you the Walpacka County wired download speed. So anything in the dark blue is 25 and over. And anything other than that is not up to the 25 megabit level that the FCC recommends. And we'll go to the next slide.
Hey, Dave, question for you. Back on that last slide, what is the black or the dark brown? Does that mean no coverage, that they have no coverage here at all?
Can you go up a little bit there, Ryan? So I can see that a little better.
Yeah, so on this slide where the,
Do we get
so there's some like dark brown or blackish areas on there.
Oh, there we go.
What does that represent?
Looks like the dark is nothing because the less than is the darker orange is the less than 3 megabits.
Yeah.
So this must be the empty area.
Must be the pockets where there of the 4,000 people that don't have access to any wired internet.
Okay.
We're talking about wired internet. We're talking about, you know, the Charters of the world, Frontier, Solaris, all the companies that use wire to connect their customers. The next one is the upload speed, and this, you know, is less than, you can see a good portion of the county is less than the, you know, FCC standard of 3 megabits. And I'll point out that, you know, the darker blue, if you're following the darker blue, that's 25 plus. And I'll show you this in a second, but it's Charter. That's who's really generating really high speed internet service in this county. So the next slide, and then I'm kind of showing this. So, you know, we have our maps, which give us a rough estimate that the PSC is basically using those maps to determine what kind of speed you have available in your county, in your area. And then if you click on someplace in your area, you can see the providers that are providing those services. And this is information that they provided to the PSC. So we look at Frontier, and their advertised download speed is 6 megabits, and their advertised upload speed is 1. So, you know, we'll go to the next one is TBS. They have advertisement of 5, and, you know, about a half a meg upload. These are their advertisements. That doesn't mean that people aren't getting better speeds using these services. They certainly are capable of it. But I think this is just the providers kind of putting information out there for the PSC, and they obviously don't want to lie to the PSC. So next one is Solaris in the middle, and that's 10 and 1. AT&T is in the New London area. Now we're talking about DSL. So, when you start getting into DSL, we all know that the speeds decline considerably. So that's 6.5 meg upload. CenturyLink, Waupaca area, 10 download and 3/4 meg upload. And then the final one is Charter. These numbers are off the charts. 940 megabits per second for download and 35 megabits per second for upload. That's some serious speed. So again, we'll go to the next map and I'll show you. So where is Charter? This is the map of the New London area that Charter is in. And then the next one it shows you Waupaca and the Walpacka area. So they have large footprints in those 2 areas, or 3 areas, and then they also have a significant imprint on the Clintonville area too. So it's those 4. But we all know that, this is a cable modem hookup. You're running the wire to your house, and Charter needs a amount of customers in order to do that. I live across from the high school in New London. I have Charter. My neighbor down the street across the road does not have Charter and cannot get Charter. And because there weren't a lot of houses on that, they didn't run it down that street. So we know, and Ryan and I found this out by talking to all of these providers, that we know they're not looking to expand their footprint unless it makes sense economically to them. So as Bob pointed out before, we've got these black areas where people don't have access to really anything. And then also the standard for good internet by the PSC is 2 providers that can provide you high-speed broadband. We really don't have that kind of thing anywhere in the county. So the next one is for the fixed wireless. And again, this looks like some pretty good coverage. But when you go to the next slide and you see obviously the upload speeds don't look as good and for the fixed wireless. And then the final slide shows you really who they have mapped here, and they're talking about, Cellcom. And we all know that, that people aren't running their broadband computers off of a Cellcom connection. So, that's 0.7 megabits per second on a download, 0.4 on an upload. So all these maps are not perfect. The PSC readily admits to that. Excuse me. And we also know that there are more wireless providers in the county than Cellcom. The city of Walpacka has a public utility called Walpacka Online. There's Star Communications out of the Waupaca area. There's Bug Tussle. And there may be another 1 or 2 that are doing wireless broadband in Walpacka County. But we still know that it's a huge issue because we have people telling us that it's a huge issue and have been for a long time. So now we get to the final part, the final slide, and this is really what we're proposing to do. So in order to use these funds, we can't provide internet service to households specifically. So we can't just say, LMI household 1, we're going to give you internet service. All we can do is provide the public good with these funds. So what that amounted to after this discussions with the Department of Administration was, we can put up broadband towers. And then when we connect people to these broadband towers, we need to make sure for the 2 years of the project that 51% of those people fit into that LMI category. And we're going to do that with a form. And we want to make sure that we hit that number. That's crucial to us. So again, I've been working with Walpacka Online for a long time, and I knew that they understand the world of government. The city, they understand the rules of Cdbg, they understand how we have to make this work. So I wanted them to be the internet service provider because I knew that they would make sure that we're going to hit our 51% number. And in fact, they're going beyond that. They're going to continue offering that service at a discount. We're going to offer a discount to the LMI population in order to make sure we get our 51% number. And then they're also going to keep that going even after the project is over, which I think is wonderful because, you know, we know how expensive this service is and how crucial it is for everyone. So these are the 8 locations. And oh, one other thing. With using Walpacka Online for this project, we don't have to go out to bid for the ISP services. So the city of Waupaca is considered basically a government entity. We would basically be using in-house staff is how it's considered. So, you know, we're going to use our highway department to do some of the construction work for these towers. That's an in-house staff. We don't have to go bid those services. So by using Walpacka Online, we don't have to bid the internet service provider stuff, and they can work with us, and we can structure the pricing to make sure that we get 51% and make sure this project goes exactly like we need it to go for the state. And eventually the feds. This is really the feds' money, housing and urban development money. So along those same lines, because we are running a little short on time here, I mentioned that we had 2 years to use these funds. That 2 years expires on January 31st, 2021. So we need to get applications in and get them approved. And in order to do that, we wanted to save as much money as possible, to put up as many towers as possible. So putting them on public land made the most sense. We won't be paying anything to put these towers on public land. And basically we're, you know, bringing internet service to a lot of these townships who have told us over the years already how much they want this in their area. So it's been a pretty good partnership so far. Everyone has agreed that they want us to do these locations when we went to the towns. And then there are 3 county locations. So there's the transfer facility in Manawa, there's the highway facility in Larrabee, and then there's some open land, number 8, down south of the Waupaca area.
South of Waupaca, Town of Lind.
And then we have town halls in DuPont, Union, Lebanon, and Muckwa has a few different sites. We're not exactly sure. The town hall is one of them. This cutoff road is one of them. We're not sure exactly which one we're picking. That's based on really Walpacka Online is able to identify the locations of the towers and use some software to see what kind of coverage they're going to get for the tower being 120 feet up in the air, or 100 feet, or in the case of the PTF, 175 feet. And then the final one is there's actually 3 communities in the Walpacka area that own this this landfill property, but I believe the town of Dayton is the main owner.
They're the one that, it's actually within the town of Dayton.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So those are the 8 that we've identified to put towers up. We have confirmation of all of them except for the town of Dayton, and we're going to DuPont tonight.
Yep.
We expect confirmation tonight from DuPont. And then we've got 2 of the 3 towns that are involved in that town of Dayton property that have signed on, and we're waiting for Dayton, but we believe they will join us too. And then based on the fact that we believe that our pricing is going to come in a little bit more favorable than we initially thought because we're using county staff to do a lot of the prep work, we think we might be able to identify a couple more sites. So I've spoken with the state. We're going to identify probably up to 10 sites. And if we can't, then we pull a couple sites off, the ones that we're adding at the end. And if in fact we end up really good shape where there could be other additional towers, we can do an amendment with the state. Because we don't want to leave any of the money on the table. We want to use the $460,000 to put broadband towers up in this county. And whether it's Walpacka Online using those towers, or whether it's Bug Tussle, whether it's Star Communications, it's in the long run, we are looking to provide high-speed wireless to the county residents who are going to be unable really to access that in other areas or need an alternative in other areas.
David, at what point would you open it up to, let's say, Bug Tussle or these others?
After we do this project.
Okay.
So once we get the towers up and the clock starts ticking on the 2 years for us to complete this project, that's when we will. So basically, we're going to end up doing 2-year leases for Walpacka Online with these towns and with the county. Okay. So once the project is over, then then it's open at that point. But we expect Walpacka Online to still be a competitive player at that point. And then the other part of this agenda item is potential residential displacement.
Hang on 1 second, Dave. I got a question from Aline Pohl.
Okay.
She said she wasn't able to hear the question that Mark had posed.
Okay.
And so Aline, just so you are, can you hear me now, Aline?
I hear you clearly.
Okay, fantastic. So his question was, so when would the towers be available to any outside competing private sector? And the answer was outside of the 2-year project time frame that we have here. So once that 2-year time frame is taken care of, then we would open up those towers to other potential interests to use.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Then the last part of this agenda item is talking about potential residential displacement. Really, this is like a housing form that you'd be addressing with housing projects mainly. So we're not obviously doing any displacement of anyone because all of these towers are going on county property and or town property, town hall property. So there are no residents on any of those properties. And number 10, we are asking for citizen input regarding this activity or any other proposed Cdbg activities you're interested in mentioning to us. So basically, we're open for questions from the committee and or any residents that may be attending the meeting.
Dave, I have one question, Bob Van Asten. With the proposed towers as shown on the map that's on the screen right now, does that give us, what type of coverage does that give us? So you have a tower, it looks like north of New London, number 5, and one maybe in Simcoe, number 4, and then one up towards Clintonville, number 2. So if somebody's in Bear Creek, are they going to be able to access that broadband? Will they be able to reach to that or not? What's the, how far does it reach out from a tower?
Yeah, good question, Bob. So it's hard to read, but in the upper left-hand corner, so this is a software-generated coverage map by Walpacka Online, and we have the coverage area listed of 484 square miles, and then the population of 19,787. So that's the estimated amount of people that we can hit in the county with this 10 towers location that we have. Now, does that always work out all, completely like that? No, because it's the trees that are the issue. So once the Walpacka Online puts their antenna at the top of the tower, then it's a line of sight issue to any particular residence. And the other thing that, is advantageous for us is that Walpacka Online has been working at building out their own network. So they're actually looking at a tower in the Black Creek area. And then they're on numerous silos around the county. So there are different ways to get to people. And that's what we're trying to do eventually here, is build out that entire network so that we can get to as many spots as we possibly can. The big problem is going to be the Northwest, heavily treed. We can't really, as you see, we don't have any towers proposed there. We really can't go there because it's not gonna benefit enough people at this point in time. But will the technology change at some point to get through trees? We all kind of think it will, but that's down the road and we don't know for sure. There's also been some significant investment in the Iowa area from the company in Amherst Telephone. So they're actually doing a really nice job of covering that area too. Again, we just want the county covered so that, when we reach out with our marketing materials to try to attract people to Waupaca County, they know that they can get high-speed broadband in this county. That is a huge deal. So that's our goal.
I just have a comment. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Aaron Jensen. I'm the city administrator with the city of Waupaca. Obviously, work closely with Josh Warner, who's our IT director, also manages the administrative part of Waupaca Online. Something that he's been keeping me in the loop on for quite some time. Him and Dave have been talking for a while, and he's excited about the opportunities of providing this service. He thinks it makes a lot of sense for Waupaca Online. We think it makes sense for the region. We talk about attracting people, which our rural counties have a tough time doing all across the state and across the country. I'm just going to give just a quick scenario that can speak to how important this is.
1 second.
Yep.
Elaine and Bob, can you hear Aaron?
Okay. So we have some built out subdivisions that we are trying to fill right now that maybe got built out in the early 2000s. And surprisingly enough, charter never came in, cable never came in. Well, if you look at like utilities and how they're viewed right now, internet is as important as water. I mean, especially in the last year where we are working remotely, we're going to school remotely, and not having that type of service in those areas, I mean, it just absolutely is a stagnant for growth. So we've seen how important it is. We talk about Amherst Telephone Company. We've got challenges in the Walpacka area. He talks about trees and the line of sight. Amherst Telephone Company has been able to come into one of those neighborhoods that we haven't been able to serve with Walpacka Online because of topography challenges and tree challenges. And what we think and what we've already heard that might do for that area as far as getting new homes in there is, I mean, it's been a month since the news has been out, and it's like people are selling lots and looking to buy and build in a hurry. So
we all know that there's no one solution here, and we talk about it all the time with Aaron and Walpacka Online. But we have this opportunity, and we could use this $460,000 to do something else, but we all believe, and the county board believes too, that this is crucial for us to do right now, as all the reasons that Aaron has been going into. So we're looking to get this off the ground and then, watch this thing develop, and so that we can compete better as a county in the future. Any other questions from anyone?
I've got a couple comments and questions. First of all, I want to compliment you on such a project because I do agree there are a lot of underserved people in our county, and particularly the children. They're dear to my heart, and they're suffering right now because of lack of internet access. My question to you is, you probably have looked at other options, but I can give you my personal example because that's the one I know best. we are with Solaris. So we are west of Ogdensburg, and we're using DSL. And my coverage is adequate. I can be on Zoom, I can watch a movie. However, I wonder if with more towers, you would get better coverage, but it would still be, the cost would be quite prohibitive for a lot of our low-income families. I pay 54. I wrote down, I want to read to you because I don't want to misquote. I took the upload and the download speed a couple times because Solaris advertised speed is quite different from what I'm getting. So it's possible, they're located in Manawa. It's possible because of the sheer distance. I know they have fiber optic all the way to Ogdensburg, and beyond that it's copper. But on the 13th of November, my download speed was only 2.48 megabyte per second for the download and 0.024 for the upload. So, you know, when I think of and I pay $54 a month for that kind of coverage, my concern is, I understand you have limited resources, and you're not, you have to do what you can do with the money available. But have you looked at other ways of funding internet access for low-income family? I'll give you another example. While I was on the school board for the Manawa School District, I had floated the idea for the schools to buy an old school bus and equip it with a hotbot for, you know, a major part of the town of Manawa. Mosinee is doing this right now. The school district of Mosinee has gone on with that particular solution. So I share my concern with you, okay, is I understand your constraints, but do you believe that it would address the issue of low-income families not having access to internet with those new towers?
Thanks, Elaine. Yes. As part of this project, and I don't know if I made it clear enough, but part of this project requires us to provide internet service to 51% of families that are considered low to moderate income. So we know that the charges that people pay for internet are high and it's costly. So that's why Walpacka Online is actually going to do special pricing to provide internet service to people that are in those income categories. And we will have a way to identify that. And so they've also agreed that they're not going to stop that once our 2-year project is over. So it's required for us to do it for 2 years. But they're making a commitment that they will continue to do that as a benefit because they are a public utility. They're going to do that as a benefit for the area because they know there's, you know, greater good to be had in the area by having widespread access. As far as your personal situation with Solaris, yes, the farther you get away, the slower the speeds are going to get. And then once a bunch of people are jumping on that copper with you, it's going to get even slower. And so those guys are going to make their decision based on dollars and cents. That's what they do. And that's fine. And they're going to play a role in all this in our county. But we want to also have the ability to make sure that we get this service deployed to as many people as possible. And we think that this project is going to be a fundamental piece of that.
Your comment to make, Aline, on that was Waupaca Online is also looking to have a subsidy designed specifically for LMI customers as well to help out. And knowing, like you say, that this can be expensive, can be a bit of a burden on a monthly basis. So that's one of the other things to keep in mind as part of this. And like Dave was mentioning, that even beyond the 2-year time frame of the project, they're looking at continuing that subsidy.
Well, maybe in your negotiation, you can exact more than 2 years. I, I guess it doesn't apply to me, but I know many people in Waupaca County have been burnt with a solar system that they have on their property with public service. So something to keep in mind, that people recant, or not recant, but once the terms of their contract has expired, then they take full advantage, to the full extent of the law. They make money. So we're aware they need to make money, but you have in mind the public good. So thank you for that. I also want to say something about the towers. If you talked about the trees, and you would encounter quite a bit of pushback from local residents. They're not about to cut trees. You may have another hurdle. It's the amount of radiation from the towers, because I've encountered it myself. We have a tower not on our land, but our neighbors. I went with a meter directly at the foot of our tower to measure the amount of emission, from microwaves. And actually, I get more radiation from my own microwave than from the tower. So, it may be worth to spread that information before, to preempt any grousing about new towers.
And these are cell towers, so we know that the equipment that they're using for broadband is not emitting the same amount of microwaves that the cell antennas are. So, but agreed. Thanks for bringing that up, Elaine. That we should definitely talk about that when we start marketing this. Okay.
Do we have a price point in mind, or?
Not yet, no. So we're gonna, once we get the application approved and we do all the other things, that environmental review that we have to do, then we're gonna start putting the towers up and start the project. At that same time, we're gonna be talking to Walpacka Online about, okay, what kind of subsidy, what kind of discount are we going to provide so that we ensure that we attract low to moderate income people to sign up for the service. And then, what makes sense for you guys to continue long term, if that's what you want to do. Let's think about that too. So we will get to that probably over the next couple of months. Okay.
Dave, Bob Van Asten here. Just got another question, just kind of more operationally. So who's going to own the towers over this 2-year period of time? Who owns them afterwards? Who has to maintain them, during this 2-year period of time and after that 2-year period of time? You could answer that.
Sure. Walpacka County will own the towers. This is their money that they're getting from the state. This is their project. They will own the towers in perpetuity. We're going to set up a lease document with the towns that basically allows Waupaca County to have access to those towers and to maintain them. From everything that we've seen so far, and we're gonna do a lease with Walpacka Online too, to try to generate some revenue to help us maintain those towers. But it's probably more related to decommission than anything, Bob. We don't hear or read anything that these things fail or need a lot of maintenance. It's typically they just, they're not, these antennas that you put on them are not heavy. This is not like a real lattice structure. It's not super complicated. So we really don't anticipate that there's a ton of money to maintain, but we want to have a pot of money if we need to decommission in the future. We don't want that to fall on Walpacka County's shoulders. Anything else that anyone wants to talk about? I just want to thank everyone really for donating their time to this and for helping us do this. Again, it's an important project, and there will be one more public hearing meeting that you will be part of, and that is at the end of the project. So that's 2 years down the road. But we have to bring the committee back together at that point when we're wrapping up the project and finalizing our paperwork with the state and hold another public hearing. So we might have more interested citizens at that point.
There's a question from Helene again.
Okay.
She's saying, you did explain the reason why you would not have to go to bid and would grant a contract to Waupaca online, but I did not quite understand. I only understood the rationale about the work.
Okay. For 2 reasons that we're doing this, Elaine. One, because we know that Walpacka Online will be our partner and will discount this service for LMI people so that we can hit our 51% of customers that we need to satisfy for this application, this state grant. That's really number one. They're in this for the same reason we are, to provide a service to the residents of Waupaca County. So they made that commitment a long time ago. This is really the 3rd grant that we're involved with Waupaca Online on. The other 2 were from the PSC, where we were getting them to, we were their partner, they had to submit the application, we were their partner, and we helped them get those grants, and then they deployed more service throughout Walpacka County. So we've been partnering with them for a long time. We know they're our good partner. And we know that they're going to be familiar with all the paperwork that we have to do to make this work. And then the second thing really is that it simplifies everything for us. We don't have, it speeds it up too. We don't have to go out and bid for an ISP who we will have, a bit of an uncertain time getting them to drop their pricing structure in order for us to make sure that we are able to provide this service to low to moderate income families. And then the cool thing is that Walpacka Online said, we're not going to just stop this after 2 years. We're going to help people out. And we know that that won't happen in the private sector. We know that. So that's why we're going the route we are going. But once those 2 years are up, we're not going to prevent other people from putting antennas on those towers if we can serve other people in the county. As we mentioned before, there's a number of other providers that are doing things, and you're obviously using one of them. So we're not here to prevent any of that. We're here to build on what we have and speed up the process.
Okay. What would prevent, now pick Solaris because that's my local provider, what would prevent them from crying foul and saying they wanted to bid and never got a chance?
They can't cry foul because we're doing this with our own in-house staff, and that's legal to do under the guidelines of this program.
Okay.
So what Solaris has done in the past is Solaris and the other telecoms have made sure that there will be no more Walpacka Onlines. So there are 2 public utilities in the state of Wisconsin, one in the city of Reedsburg, one in the city of Walpacka, and the telecoms got the legislature to adopt a law that said they will not allow that to take place anymore in Wisconsin.
Okay. Well, I know they have a good staff. I have met them in Madison in Luther Olson's office lobbying. So I just want you to be prepared. That's all.
Undoubtedly, they have good people working for their company. And again, we're not looking to stop them from operating. We certainly aren't doing that at all. What we're doing is trying to help the residents of Walpacka County. That's where we come from. That's our business model.
Right, but I don't want you to be sued either.
They won't. Don't worry. They won't do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your concern though. Okay, anything else anybody wants to talk about before we adjourn?
All right, with that, we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. All right, we have a motion by David, second by Dennis to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 2:51 PM.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.